Bakura is the classmate of one Yugimoto, a friendly, kind-hearted soul. He's a classmate I would love to have. Well, I want to be Bakura's friend, but only one half of Bakura. The other half isn't too friendly. Ryou Bakura is the good old kind-hearted chap. However, it is Yami Bakura that makes you fear for your life. This video will look at the relationship between Bakura and Yami Bakura.
Don't you realize that I am the darkness? I shall be safe here. And where do you think you're going?
He was set on fire. They carried him away.
Stop it! Stay away from me! I can't do that! Now stop resisting and join me! Never!
Don't be afraid. Be terrified.
Prepare yourself, mortal, for a shadow game the likes of which you've never played.
Let's make one thing clear, the spirit of the Millennium Ring, that which we call Yami Bakura, is a composite spirit between the Thief King Bakura and a piece of Zork, meaning that those two spirits combine to make Yami Bakura. Cool? Cool. Cool. In the manga, Bakura was not aware of Yami Bakura until he transferred to Domino High School. Before this, Yami Bakura used to possess Ryou Bakura's body whenever he used to play with his friends and turn those normal games into shadow games, and that left all of those friends in a coma, and Bakura had to constantly keep on moving. So before being aware of the spirit, Bakura was lonely, scared and confused. It was only until Bakura went to Domino High School again in the manga where he was made aware of the spirit of the Millennium Ring's presence. Again, manga only because it wasn't expanded in the anime. It's unclear when he was first aware in the anime, although it was during Duelist Kingdom where we saw Yami Bakura debut in the anime. Remember, Bakura obtained the Millennium Ring when Shadi told Bakura's dad to wear it, before he was attacked by the malicious spirit within the ring, and then Bakura held the Millennium Ring, which allowed the spirit to be awakened since it found a suitable vassal, thus possessing Bakura. How did they even interact? As stated earlier on how Bakura obtained the Millennium Ring, there was no real interaction between the two until much later on. What is established is that Yami Bakura is an absolute asshole. In the original Japanese version, he's very ill-mannered and disrespectful in how he talks with others, whereas in the English dub, to showcase how much of an arsehole he is, they gave him an English accent. Okay, that works, I guess. On top of that, he was quite rude, but yeah, that works as well. Although we didn't see them truly interact in the anime until probably Dawn of the Duel, they did so very early on in the manga. Yami Bakura was able to communicate with Bakura as a voice in his head after they befriended Yugi. Yami Bakura theorized that it's because of how the two Millennium items, the puzzle and the ring, resonated off each other that allowed him to become a voice in Bakura's head. And it starts getting interesting in terms of the relationship from here. Yami Bakura tells Bakura that he's gonna take care of him, as that's how he's gonna pay his rent for using Bakura's body. When Bakura Ryou, or good Bakura, tries to take off the ring, the jaggy bits of the Millennium Ring pierce into his body. Those panels in the manga, in my opinion, sum up their relationship perfectly, both in the manga and the anime. You're probably about to say, yo Dimsy, they did know about each other before Dawn of the Duel in the anime, but my question to you is, did they explicitly converse? In Duel Monsters, Yami Bakura dueled Yami Yugi in a shadow game, but Ryou Bakura actively interfered. Yeah, that's right. But did Bakura or the others truly understand what was happening? When Yami Bakura re-emerged alongside Tristan to locate the lifeless bodies after Pegasus trapped their souls, Tristan was freaked out when he saw Bakura being sadistic and all evil, so he knocked him out and he chucked away the Millennium Ring in the jungle. The team were always aware of Yami Bakura, but they just didn't know what was happening or much about him. They consistently thought he was gone for good, but he always re-emerged, like when he re-emerged to take Pegasus' Millennium Eye, after which he was hidden from them, and then he used tactics to always conceal himself, such as inserting a portion of himself into Yugi's Millennium Puzzle. Yami Bakura was fooling everyone, and that included Ryou Bakura, since Ryou Bakura really had no clue what was happening to him. The boy was confused half the time, since it seemed that bad things always happened to or near him, and then everyone was able to recollect what happened, but he just didn't know what happened. When Bakura Ryou explained to Namu the false identity of Marik in Battle C, that he just didn't know how he was stabbed, this reinforced that Ryou was not fully aware of Yami Bakura, because it was Yami Bakura who stabbed himself to gain Yugi's trust. Even when Yami Bakura steals the locator cards needed for the Battle City finals, he just wasn't able to elaborate on how he got them. It's either that Ryou Bakura is stupid, or he is emotionally scarred, that he has falsely self-diagnosed himself to have foggy memories to explain the unexplainable events that keep on happening around or to him. Although the anime is an adaptation of the manga for the Yugioh Duel Monsters portion of everything, they differ considerably in how they flesh out their relationship. It was at the start of Dawn of the Duel where we hear Ryou Bakura begs for Yami Bakura to leave him alone. A very poignant scene of Bakura running and then being haunted within a cathedral as Yami Bakura laughs maniacally before taking over his body forcefully. That's a key word, forcefully. The manga toys with us by giving us more dialogue between the two. In Monster World, where Yami Bakura formally introduces himself to Ryou Bakura, he states how he will take care of him before torturing those who bullied Bakura earlier on in that chapter and in that day. In Duelist Kingdom, Bakura is fully aware of the dangers of the spirit in the ring, so he actively avoids wearing the ring. Unfortunately, that doesn't work when they are destiny bonded to each other. The manga portion of Duelist Kingdom, where Bakura, Joey, Taya and Tristan were searching for clues to exit the chamber as they were trapped there because of the Makyu brothers, Yami Bakura speaks internally with Ryou Bakura, requesting him to take control. He is a natural born thief, as he says, and he can be useful. Although Ryou Bakura refuses, Yami Bakura emotionally blackmails him by saying, "Look, your friend's deaths will be all your fault because you didn't allow me to take control." This allows Bakura to reluctantly let him take control. Yami Bakura was consistently claiming to turn over a new leaf. He was a liar, he was a manipulator. The subsequent possession didn't have the same level of interaction between the two, but when Yami Bakura witnessed the duel between Yami Yugi and Ryuji, known as Duke Devlin in the dub, he told Yami Yugi that he had turned over a new leaf. Yami Bakura is a master schemer, and perhaps Bakura was slightly starting to believe him. Again, manga only. Mind you, a difference between the stabbing incident I said earlier in Battle City between the anime and the manga was that in the manga, Bakura didn't say that he was unaware of how he got stabbed. He was pretty much completely out of it throughout the whole ordeal. Furthermore, Ryou Bakura was brainwashed by Marik in the manga to further explain his lack of opposition to Yami Bakura's actions. But it was those events that led to the point where Yami Bakura was nice. In both the anime and the manga, during the duel between Yami Yugi and Yami Bakura in the Battle City finals, Yami Bakura saved Ryou Bakura's life. Or was it to save himself? Well, he had to save both. Yugi was about to attack with Sly for the Sky Dragon. In an attempt to stop this and emotionally blackmail Yugi, Marik changed the bodies, the spirits of Bakura, so Ryou Bakura was at the forefront. Now remember, Bakura was injured from earlier and weakened due to the stabbing incident. Yami Bakura knew this. He knew that Ryou Bakura was not able to survive. It's gonna be fatal if he took the onslaught of an Egyptian god, so he switched back and he took the brute force for himself. You'd think, oh wow, that's nice, he saved him. No, this wasn't Yami Bakura saving him out of love or friendship. This was all to preserve Yami Bakura's plan. He has always operated under the pretense of deceit and him being sneaky throughout the whole of the Yu-Gi-Oh series. Look at the start of Dawn of the Duel. We have a scene between Ryou Bakura as he runs away from the Spirit of the Ring, begging and pleading to leave him alone. Ultimately, it led to a forceful possession by Yami Bakura in a church nonetheless, and that made the whole ordeal even more haunting. And you know what? I can assure you this is the best, if not one of the most iconic scenes of Yu-Gi-Oh! And a very traumatic experience for Bakura. We didn't see any more interactions between the two since Atem defeated Zork, and ultimately this led to the defeat of Yami Bakura in the Shadow game. This killed off Yami Bakura once and for all. Or did it? Before we answer that, let's talk about the relationship between these two faithful souls. Yami Bakura had a plan, but he didn't know why he was executing it. Like Yami Yugi, they both knew they were spirits but had little to no memories of their past. They possessed their respective hosts who became their vassal while on Earth, meaning that there was a dependency for their vassal to survive so they can survive. We're going to explore Atem's story another day, but we have to understand that Yami Bakura only kept Bakura for his own maniacal plan. He did not befriend Bakura to become a point of wisdom, advice or comfort like how Atem was for Yugi. Bakura's approach was driven by manipulation, fear-mongering and inflicting pain. It's a shame the changes made in the anime from the manga didn't allow for their interactions to be fleshed out or even given any attention until the very end, or even that one scene in the church. Furthermore, the changes in the English dub, which popularized Yu-Gi-Oh! In the West, had so many tonal changes. It was as if that we were watching a different show. However, I personally enjoyed Bakura in the dub since he's my favorite character, and that's just nostalgia speaking, I don't care. From the examples listed previously, the manipulation and fear tactics were more prevalent in the manga. The anime showcased how forceful Yami Bakura is, with both the manga and the anime highlighting how sadistic Yami Bakura is. This was a tragic ordeal for Bakura to the point where he felt lonely, disassociated and helpless throughout most of his life. He didn't know why he couldn't make friends. He knew that it's dangerous if he had friends, but again, he had no clue why. Bakura is a victim. Let's imagine this was a domestic abuse case. Yami Bakura is a manipulative, controlling wife beater. Yami Bakura batters Bakura emotionally and physically. He then convinces Bakura that he's not strong enough and only he can protect him. He manipulates Bakura into associating with certain friends that Yami Bakura approves of. Bakura can only live in the world Yami Bakura allows, even though Bakura himself has free will. When Bakura tries to act on his own, it displeases Yami Bakura, so he forcefully takes over, leaving Bakura in a world of confusion when he regains consciousness. Bakura is convinced to be weak and pathetic, but ironically, surviving this ordeal, he is strong and resilient. Through his sick and twisted actions of using Bakura like a tool, perhaps Yami Bakura did make Bakura strong. Now look, I'm certain Bakura would not agree to this. He has a different interpretation of events, one of sadness, powerlessness and forced obedience. Bakura would most certainly say that it was the worst time of his life, as he was robbed of most of it. What's worse is actually, he wasn't just robbed of his time and memories. Bakura thought he was free from the spirit multiple times, only for it to resurface again and again. Bakura was broken multiple times. He thought he was saved, only to wake up to hell all over again. His morale was destroyed and he was always on the edge. How can he ever relax? How can he truly be at peace when the spirit always showed up again and again to torment him and remind him that he's weak, he's powerless, and he can't live life properly? We mentioned how Yami Bakura died or was destroyed after the events of Dawn of the Duel, but did he? In Dark Side of Dimensions, the plot revolved around how Yami Bakura murdered Shadi when he first possessed Bakura. The crimes of Yami Bakura came to haunt Bakura again, 6 months after the spirit's defeat. Yes, Yami Bakura in fact was dead and finished, but his crimes haunted Bakura still when Aigami attacked and said, "You know what, you killed my master!" They wanted revenge, and much to Bakura's plea that he was possessed and he had no clue, he had no idea it was a spirit's fault, they still attacked him. Yami Bakura had such a dark presence that he left an evil aura lingering within the Millennium Ring, and that possessed Aigami to threaten the world all over again. So when Aigami was defeated, the spirit, the aura of the ring was also finally put to rest and destroyed, and Bakura can finally live his life. Or can he? Maybe he can. We see Bakura happy and surrounded by girls who want to become his friend in Dark Side of Dimensions. Knowing that the movie dark side of dimensions is canon to the manga and occurred 6 months after the end of Duel Monsters, we have to understand the stress and weight was lifted off Bakura's shoulders. Finally, this was Bakura in his natural, comfortable state, where he can socialize without fear, where he can do as he pleases without the wrath of the spirit raining down on him, where his body belongs to himself. This is a liberated and free Bakura. With the Millennium Ring finally destroyed, this is Bakura who is allowed to be happy. And that should never be the case, but he's allowed to be happy. This relationship was toxic and dangerous. If you can even classify this as a relationship, this was a one-sided power struggle. The saddest part is it mirrors many relationships in real life, to which I urge you, seek help and escape from that hell. Bakura has escaped, so can you. What do you reckon about this relationship between Bakura and Yami Bakura? Or would you prefer a relationship with Marik and Yami Marik? Well, regardless, comment down below, and what I will say is like, share, subscribe, and run away before he possesses your soul, mortal!